Thank you so much for joining us for CBN News Watch. I'm Ephraim Graham. Ahead today, the deadline for Hamas accept President Donald Trump's peace plan to end the war in Gaza. The president saying the terrorist group only has a few days to respond or face what he calls, quote, a very sad end. Here at home, the federal government shutting down after Senate Democrats will not agree to a Republican funding plan. Now the White House may be getting ready to take action on spending as Washington waits to see how long this shutdown lasts. Our Studio 5 conversation with the worship artist whose music was forged from heartbreak. We're going to hear from John Mark McMillan about the stories behind his music. And a special day for those who have been translating the Bible so people around the world can read the Word of God in their own languages. We're going to tell you about Bible Translation Day. All those stories and more right now. You're watching CBN News Watch.
This is CBN News Watch.
It is Wednesday, the 1st of October. Going to begin this half hour with the deadline for Hamas to accept President Donald Trump's peace plan to end the war in Gaza and release the hostages. The president making it clear he will not wait for long. CBN Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell is bringing us the story from Jerusalem.
President Trump laid out the timeline for Hamas to accept or reject the plan.
We're going to do about 3 or 4 days. We'll see how it is. All of the Arab countries are signed up. The Muslim countries are all signed up. Israel's all signed up. We're just waiting for Hamas. And Hamas is either going to be doing it or not. And if it's not, it's going to be a very sad end.
He told reporters there's little room for more negotiations.
Not much. You know, with Hamas, we want very simple. We want the hostages back immediately. And we want some good behavior. And, you know, it's pretty simple. You don't get simpler. Think of it. We've signed every country in the Middle East. This was like an impossible thing. It's never been done before. This is more than Gaza. Gaza was big stuff. But Gaza is a piece of it.
In Jerusalem, Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu met with members of his government.
In Washington, I agreed with President Trump on a plan for the release of all our hostages and the achievement of all the war goals we set. I will provide a more detailed report to both the members of the government and the members of the cabinet.
In Doha, the Qatari government is meeting with Hamas.
Regarding ending the war and bringing aid in, of course, the first step now is reaching consensus on this plan with all parties. The Israeli side had initially expressed approval on the plan based on what had been agreed upon. But now, as we said, we are in the stage of consultations with the negotiating delegation of Hamas.
Qatar said on Tuesday it will also hold mediation talks with Hamas and Turkey over the peace plan. While Israelis have applauded the plan, expectations are low, and the next couple of days will be critical. Meanwhile, Israel is preparing to shut down for Yom Kippur, the most solemn day of the year for Jewish people. Many will fast for 25 hours and seek to reconcile with God and each other.
And Chris joins us now from Jerusalem with more. So, Chris, it sounds like the president is giving Hamas 3 or 4 days to respond. What is Hamas saying?
Well, Ephraim, what we're hearing is it could take days. They are reviewing the plan, they say, in, quote, good faith. But they're also consulting with other Palestinian groups inside and outside of Gaza. And they're saying it could take several days. They're really deciding on their fate, Ephraim, you know, whether or not they're going to survive as a group, because if they have to give up all the hostages, their main leverage right now, and disarm and no longer govern Gaza, they're basically deciding that their own demise. So some expect Hamas to reject the plan because it, quote, ignores the plight of the Palestinian people. It serves Israel's interest and rejects presumably the presence of what will be an international stabilization force, and then may reject releasing all the hostages at once. And other reports are they say they will accept it. We'll hopefully find out in the next day or two.
Could Hamas be using this as a stall or a delay tactic?
They certainly can, and that's what some people think is going on. Some people believe Qatar may be helping this delay, and that's why what the foreign minister said, or the spokesman for the Qatari foreign ministry, was a little bit uncertain. They're saying the plan is not comprehensive, more details to be worked out. However, an Israeli official is saying the plan is complete. and they're talking several days versus 3 or 4 days at President Trump. So really, it might depend on how long President Trump's patience will last with Hamas.
How do people in Gaza feel about Hamas after nearly 2 years of war?
Well, what we're hearing is that reportedly people are starting to turn against Hamas and blaming them for bringing devastation to Gaza. There is a letter with the head of the Chamber of Commerce in Gaza City, among with other business leaders, sending a letter to President Trump to pressure Israel to halt the fighting. And in that letter, which is almost unheard of sometimes because of the pressure that Hamas has on most all of life inside Gaza, is they're distancing themselves from Hamas. Says the group, Hamas, no longer has the support of the public. Now, this many people should realize, I think, at the very first, most Gazans celebrated October 7th and claimed it was a victory. And in fact, many people from Gaza actually participated in October 7th. We were down at Kfar Aza, one of the main kibbutzim on the border that was attacked. And many of them, first was the shock troops, the special forces of Hamas that came in, but then followed by many just regular civilians that participated in those atrocities on October 7th. So right now, it seems after 2 years of war, they're turning against Hamas and blaming Hamas for bringing this devastation on Gaza and its people.
What is the latest on Israel's military attacks on Hamas in Gaza City?
Well, while all the negotiations are going on, the IDF is continuing its move into Gaza City. Many of the tanks, which is sort of the initial military involvement in many of these neighborhoods, are being sited in very key neighborhoods there inside Gaza City. So inside the city and outside, a lot of activity going on. So this is continuing despite the negotiations, and likely, unless Hamas accepts this activity or this plan, the military campaign will go on until they can complete what the goals of the war is, which would be a complete defeat of Hamas militarily, that they can no longer govern the Gaza Strip. And hopefully, and many people are praying, it would be the belief that all the hostages could come home, the 20 that are still alive, presumably, and all the deceased as well.
Chris, as you mentioned in your report, Israel is shutting down for Yom Kippur. Why is this holiday so important?
Well, for the Jewish people, it's the holiest day of the year. It's cited in Leviticus chapter 16. This is a day to afflict your souls. That's why many people will be fasting for the day for 25 hours from sundown tonight till tomorrow night. It's a time to make things right with God and others, a time of repentance. It's also a time of very special prayers for the Jewish people, and it's a culmination of the 10 days of awe that began on Rosh Hashanah. This is a time where people they talk to each other and say, Gima Hatima Tova, which is may you have a good inscription in the book of life. So a time of spiritual intensity. The synagogues will be full. Many people are wearing white, symbolizing purity. And literally, Ephraim, the country shuts down. And it's really incredible to experience. And seriously, a hush settles on the country when literally the whole country stops to observe Yom Kippur.
May we all have a good inscription in the book of life. Chris Mitchell, thank you so much for that. Our CBN News Middle East Bureau Chief, we look forward to hearing from you in the days ahead this week. Coming up here at home, the federal government shuts down after Senate Democrats vote down a Republican bill to keep funding the government. We're going to hear what members of both parties and President Trump is saying when we come back. Federal government shuts down at midnight after Senate Democrats refuse to sign on to a Republican spending bill to keep the government going. Now, a key question is, how long will this shutdown last? CBN's Brody Carter has our report.
At the center of the standoff, deep cuts in Medicaid and safeguards on the president's power to cut future spending.
The bill upon reconsideration is not passed.
A last-minute push to stop the shutdown fell short in the Senate overnight. The House had approved a temporary funding patch, but it was tied to the president's spending bill that cut nearly $1 trillion from Medicaid over the next decade, a sticking point for Democrats.
This truly is a Democrat-owned, Chuck Schumer-owned shutdown. There's no negotiation. It's a shakedown when he asked for $1 trillion for 4 weeks. It's absurd.
Republicans needed 8 Senate Democrats to cross over, but only 3 did.
I told you we have $17 trillion being invested, so the last person that wants it shut down is us.
It's the first shutdown since 2018 during President Trump's first term, which was the longest in 40 years. And while the president says he doesn't want to shut down, he suggests he can use it to make even more cuts Democrats oppose.
We can do things during the shutdown that are irreversible, that are bad for them and irreversible by them, like cutting vast numbers of people out, cutting things that they like, cutting programs that they like.
Democrat demands include funding for hiring health care subsidies, restoring planned Medicaid cuts, and legislation to limit the president's authority to make unilateral spending cuts.
Trump doesn't care about how this shutdown is going to hurt real, average Americans across the country. He doesn't care about the Republican health care crisis. He clearly thinks this is all a game.
Republican leaders say they will not enter into negotiations until Democrats agree to vote to reopen the government.
The negotiation happens when the government's open. So let's keep the government open, and then we will have the negotiation. We're happy to sit down and talk about these other issues that they're interested in, but it should not have anything to do with whether or not, for a 7-week period, we keep the federal government open.
With the shutdown in effect, hundreds of thousands of federal workers face furloughs, while millions of active duty troops must work without pay. National parks and museums are closing. Passport and visa processing will slow, and food assistance programs face delays. Also, TSA agents and air traffic controllers will remain on the job despite no paycheck. This as lawmakers' salaries continue uninterrupted. Brody Carter, CBN News.
Still ahead, the worship artist whose songs were forged from heartbreak, from Cosmic Supreme to How He Loves. John Mark McMillan shares with us the stories behind his chart-topping hits. We'll hear from him right after this. Welcome back to CBN News Watch. Christian artist John Mark McMillan has written songs like How He Loves and King of My Heart. He's also traveled the world performing that music. Now he's retiring from life on the road. We recently caught up with the singer on his final tour, and he's sharing some powerful and personal memories from his career.
John Mark McMillan has written songs and traveled the world singing them for decades.
20 years later, it's been a wild ride.
His long musical journey is also a spiritual one. It began when he was just 7 years old.
When I was 7, I had this weird thing happen at Vacation Bible School.
I was overwhelmed with this feeling and I started to cry.
There's like a guest musical, special music, they used to call it. And out of nowhere, I felt this feeling, right? I felt this feeling, and the only way I can describe it is that it felt like the entire universe was in love with me, and I had compassion on every person I'd ever met in my entire life. And I started to sob, I started to cry, I started to break down. And so I think from then on, I wanted to feel that feeling again, and I found it oftentimes in music. And that's probably why I gravitated towards music, even though I wasn't very good at it growing up.
Good or bad, he couldn't stop.
And I wondered, at some point, if I made music myself, then maybe I could feel that feeling again.
In his teen years, John Mark began creating his own original music.
Initially, I think I started writing songs because I'd played in some bands. And mostly I just liked the community of being in the band. I was never very good. In fact, a lot of people told me I wasn't going to make music.
And in seminary, he was given his first opportunity to take the stage with his very own song.
That was the moment I'm like, I walked off the stage thinking this 5,000 people sang this song the way I felt. It's like, I want to feel this way. And I realized that maybe if I can share that feeling through my music, I could do something that mattered.
Still, one of his most recognized hits. He wrote How He Loves more than 20 years ago after losing a close friend in a car accident.
I'd actually started the song before he passed away. I had like a verse, but I played that verse for him. In my mind, it was like the last time I saw him alive. And after he passed away, I decided to finish that song kind of as an homage to him because I knew he liked it. And I'd had people die, lost grandparents and stuff, but like losing a young friend was like not a thing that was supposed to happen. And so I was, you know, I was bitter that God would take my friend. You know, that I was very tempted to think God's not a loving God if he would allow my best friend to die. And it was saying, I still believe you're a loving God.
Since this song, John Mark has released many chart-topping melodies, most recently, Cosmic Supreme.
The Cosmic Supreme album really happened, it was in a season when my father-in-law was passing away. He was dying. He was fighting cancer. And in that season, life was really, really difficult. My mind started wandering, and while I was supposed to be working, I would start singing these, what I thought were kind of silly, childlike praise choruses. And after my father-in-law passed away, I realized that I felt like God was giving me the songs that I needed. And I thought maybe other people this might be helpful for them.
Now, taking more time to look back, he embraces every area of his life, the tragedies and the triumphs.
It's been a wild ride. But at 45, I also realized the world is a lot more complex than I thought it was at 7.
Certain things that were painful, but I don't know that I would be who I am right now if I hadn't walked through all of that. In one sense, if Jesus is the image of the invisible God, and Jesus is the God who embraces helplessness as a child, who embraces hard work as an adult, and then he embraces, death. If he's the God who embraces all those things, then also taking up the cross is also embracing my whole story, even the parts of it that I don't like. If Jesus embraces my whole story, then I can also embrace my whole story, and I can look back without shame, and I can be okay with whatever it was. And that is the Cosmic Supreme.
I want you to know how much I appreciate you and how much purpose and meaning you have given me over these last 20 years. Thank you so much.
John Mark McMillan's latest album is called Cosmic Supreme. You can find it wherever you purchase, download, or stream your music. And this evening on Studio 5, we've got a special show for you. We're going to take a look at the film Ruth and Boaz. It's finishing #1 on Netflix right now. And we're talking to the filmmaker, Devon Franklin, and the actors who play the roles of Ruth and Boaz. Plus, we've got a look at the animated film The Light of the World, sharing the life of Jesus through the eyes of his friend and apostle, John. You can watch the new edition of Studio 5 this evening on the CBN News Channel. It begins at 8 Eastern. You can also watch it on the CBN News app, or you can watch it on YouTube. Coming up, a special day honoring those who have translated the Bible in multiple languages. We're going to have that story for you when we come back. Tuesday was a special day recognizing the critical work of Bible translators around the world. It's known as Bible Translation Day, honoring the work of translators in making the Bible accessible in different languages. The tradition began in 1966 with a congressional resolution proposed by William Townsend, the founder of Wycliffe Bible Translators. Townsend proposed celebrating the day of the feast of St. Jerome, the first translator of the whole Bible. Today, the Bible is now translated into more than 770 different languages, and we say thank you to all the translators, past, present, and future as well. Time now for your Wednesday word, and today's word is recover. Remember this: you may be down, but you are not broken. You may have fallen, but you're not a failure. You can and you will recover. That's your word today, recover. And I say to you, in every loss or setback you may face, hold fast to this promise: you will recover all. That is going to do it for this edition of CBN NewsWatch. You can always find more of our news programs on the CBN News Channel at any time. You can also find them online. That is cbnnews.com. We'd love to know what you think about the stories you've seen here today. You can email us, newswatch@cbn.com. And join us right back here tomorrow. Goodbye and God bless.